We have a responsive reading that's inspired by The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the creatures of field and forest, of sky and stream? We do not know all mysteries, but we know this: life is a gift freely given. Have you seen how the grasshopper leaps, how the bird sings, how the wildflower blooms in the sun? We pause to notice, to be present, to give thanks for the wonder of this day. Life is not meant only for duty, for rushing, for worry. Life is meant for paying attention, for resting in awe, for being alive in this moment. So I ask you, friends, as Mary Oliver once asked, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Good morning, friends. Today we gather on a hot August morning in the season of cicadas, sun-drenched, and long evenings when the air itself seems to shimmer with heat. August is a time of slowing down, of vacations, of road trips, of back-to-school shopping, and, if we're lucky, of lying under the stars at night, which are big and bright, remembering what it is to be part of something far greater than ourselves. Unless your birthday happens to be in August, August is seldom a month remembered. It is a time of transition, from recess to refocusing, from vacation to vigilance. August is a month with no holiday, where we are busy focusing on what is about to happen, rather than living in its moments. I can tell you, though, that these hot August nights for me contain some of the most profound moments in my spiritual journey. The first of such moments of my early life, a moment when I grew just a little and realized that the magical universe of which we are part, it happened when I was about 5 years old. I was lying down in my sleeping bag on the shores of Lake Lahontan in west central Nevada. It was my first time that I can remember sleeping out under the stars. My best buddy, Ricky, was in his bag next to me. My mother was nearby. The air was still, no wind, no city lights, just the occasional splash of a fish breaking the lake's surface. One of the benefits of growing up in perhaps the remotest part of the most empty state in the Union. It was a moonless night, a hot August night, darker than dark, and the stars upon stars filled the sky. The Milky Way stretched in a glowing band across the heavens. And then it began. A spark of light appeared, leaving a short streak across the sky. Then another. Then another. Soon hundreds, perhaps thousands of meteors sparked across the sky in quick, bright bursts. It was my first experience of the Perseid meteor shower. At 5 years old, I didn't know the science behind it, that the Earth had passed through the debris of a comet's tail. I just knew that the sky itself seemed alive with light. Was it God speaking to me? Was it a message from the universe? Or was it simply a child's wide-eyed encounter with mystery? Whatever it was, it planted in me a seed of awe that has never left. That night by the lake was my first real lesson in wonder. But it was not the last. Each summer of my childhood became a classroom for the spirit, a classroom with no walls where the teachers were trees, lakes, mountains, and the stars themselves. I was lucky. My childhood summers were shaped by my family, travel, and time outdoors. My parents, both educators, had schedules that matched mine. So summers meant camping trips, long road adventures, and time with relatives. In 1983, my father took a job working at a Boy Scout camp, Camp Fleischmann. And I spent the entire summer there. Imagine tall Jeffrey pines, volcanic mountains, and a sparkling lake deep in the forest of Northern California, along the slopes of Mount Harkness, bordering on the Lassen National Park. It was a perfect place for a boy to grow in spirit as well as in body. When I became old enough, I worked on the staff of the camp in the nature area. I remember most teaching the Astronomy Merit Badge. Always fascinated by what was up there, and like on the shores of Lake Lahontan, a perfect sky overhead at Camp Fleischmann. One of the requirements for the Merit Badge required an overnight hike to make observations of the stars at different times of the night. We would hike under the stars, circling the lake to see the constellations from every angle. I can still remember pointing to the southern sky from the north shore and then crossing to the south side of the lake to take in the northern sky, and finally bedding down under the wide open heavens. In August, as camp wound down, I would rise before dawn for my last astronomy hike. The lake would be still, the air cool, twilight just beginning, and there in the east, before the sun rose, new constellations appeared for the first time. Orion, Canis Major, and Canis Minor. The brightest of these stars of these constellations form the Winter Triangle. Betelgeuse, of course, of Orion, as well as Procyon and Sirius, the dog stars, heralds of winter. That is where the phrase, the dog days of August, comes from. It comes from the rising of these two dog stars in the early morning hours in the late summer sky. Those nights taught me that summer is never static. Even in its heat and fullness, it already carries the signs of change. Camp Fleischmann taught me these lessons as surely as any classroom ever did. Abundance in the laughter of campers, stillness in the quiet of the early morning light, in the bright constellations above, and fleetingness in the turning of the year as Orion rose to greet us before dawn. Those summers connected me to nature, to my family, to the rhythms of earth. They taught me that life isn't just about rushing from task to task. It's about slowing down, being present, and letting wonder work its way into your bones. Friends, summer is more than a season. It is a spiritual teacher. Summer is abundance. Gardens overflow, fruits ripen, days lengthen. Spirituality, it's a time of gratitude, of noticing the richness already in our lives. Summer is stillness. Anyone who sat on a porch in the Texas heat knows what I mean. Summer reminds us to slow down, to breathe, to rest. Summer is light. Long days bathe us in sunlight. Spiritually, we are reminded that there is a light within us and that it needs tending so it can shine even when autumn's shadows lengthen. And summer is fleeting. The cicadas remind us that even the hottest days will pass, that seasons turn, and that our lives too are precious and finite. In Unitarian Universalism, we don't all share the same theology, but we do share a common sources of wisdom Two of these sources speak directly to the summer spirituality. First, our first source, the direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder. Isn't that what a meteor shower is? Isn't that what watching a sunset can be? That moment when your breath catches and you realize you're part of something vast and beautiful. Second, our seventh principle, the respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Summer is an annual reminder of this web, from cicadas to sunflowers, from thunderstorms to the Milky Way overhead. The web is alive with beauty and interconnection. Theologian Ralph Waldo Emerson once wrote, "The sun shines today also. There is more wool and flax in the fields. There are new lands, new men, and new thoughts." Emerson, like so many of our Unitarian Universalist ancestors, believed that nature is scripture. Summer is a chapter in that holy book. So what does this mean for us here in Dallas in August of 2025? It means we are invited to reconnect to wonder. When was the last time you went outside at night and looked up at the stars? Not just glanced, but really looked. Try it this month. The Perseids are still streaking overhead in mid-August. Step outside, find the dark, look up. Reconnect to rest. Our society pushes us to be endlessly productive, but summer teaches us that rest is sacred. Stillness is holy. Even Jesus, even the Buddha, even the prophets of old went off into the wilderness to be alone and to breathe. Reconnect to gratitude. The long days, the fruits of the earth, the sound of laughter around a grill or a picnic table, these are not small things. They are the essence of life. And reconnect to each other. In a season when many retreat indoors to air conditioning, we still need one another. Summer reminds us to gather, to celebrate, to sing together, to live in community. As I reflect back to that 5-year-old boy lying under the Nevada stars, I realize that he felt then is something we all long for. To know that we belong in this universe, that we are not separate but connected, not small but part of something vast. For me, the meteor shower was a moment of awakening. For you, it may be something else, the sound of ocean waves, the taste of a ripe tomato, the smile of a grandchild playing in the sprinklers. These are summer's gifts. These are God's whispers, or, if you prefer, the universe's reminders that we are alive, that we are connected, and that we are loved. So you can imagine the grief I felt in August of 2021 when news came that a fire was consuming those forests around my beloved Camp Fleischmann. The Dixie Fire, nearly 1 million acres, entire towns lost. Another profound spiritual growth moment as I spent the evening with family and friends texting updates. All of us hopeful, all of us concerned. We learned that indeed the fire had reached the camp and was burning in and around it. Yet we remained vigilant that the camp would somehow survive. But alas, our camp, my summer sanctuary, was virtually destroyed. Only 4 buildings left standing, the rest reduced to ash, the thick, impenetrable forest of trees largely lost. Over the next couple of years, the council hemmed and hawed about the camp's future, but it was decided this year that the lease held on the property would be returned to the U.S. Forest Service. This summer, we held a goodbye reunion for the camp's alumni, and I was there with my 88-year-old father, himself tied to the camp since the 1960s. The road to camp was lined with blackened trees, the landmarks of my childhood gone. A particular tree on a particular turn of the road to remind me where I was no longer offered guidance. It was difficult to gauge how far along the road we were. Dust devils swirled among the now barren lands. A sense of sadness and shock kept us largely silent. And yet, as we turned into the road leading into camp, we felt at home. We reconnected with people, profound people in my life, people I have not seen in decades, yet have shaped me into who I am today. Among the small crowd of alumni was my former scoutmaster, Jim Pruss. He lived there with us throughout my childhood, along with his son, who was one of my greatest friends. He stood and offered this powerful testimony. I thought I was coming to a funeral, but instead I see a celebration of life, a sentiment I am sure all of us shared. That is the paradox of summer, isn't it? Its beauty, its fleeting forest, it's vulnerable, yet in its spirit of connection endures. And around that final campfire beneath the stars, visible now through charred branches, I remembered again. The universe whispers to us in awe, even in loss. We are alive. We are connected. We are loved. As the heat of August presses upon us, I invite you to find your own spiritual connection with summer. Look up at the night sky. Listen to the cicadas. Savor the fruits of the season. Rest in the stillness, and above all, give thanks for the abundance of life, for the interdependent web, for the mystery and wonder that surrounds us. Friends, whether in the brilliance of meteors, the laughter of summer camps, or even the ashes of burned forests, may we hear the same truth, that wonder, connection, and love are never lost. They return like stars each night and seasons each year. They return like the small trees and flowers now taking root in my beloved Camp Fleischmann, showing us that life indeed is resilient and endures. We are alive. We are connected. And we are loved. On these hot August nights, may you find not only heat, but light. Not only stillness, but presence. Not only passing days, but moments of awe. And remember this, fairest is love, healer of all nature, love for the earth and humankind. May it be so, and amen.
Our closing words today are from Henry David Thoreau, from Walden, Summer Chapter. Summer is the time when the earth exhales. The air is full of scents, the fields full of growth, and the waters full of life. To sit quietly by a pond, to watch the ripple of a breeze across it, is to know that life itself is a gift.